Is Benjamin Netanyahu facing a growing military manpower crisis, just as fears of renewed confrontation with Iran continue to dominate Israel's security calculations and regional strategy? Israel is increasingly turning inward as a bitter dispute over military conscription pushes the country toward a political and social breaking point unlike anything seen in recent years. Anger within the ultra-Orthodox community has now spilled into the streets, with protesters gathering outside the home of a senior Supreme Court justice at the center of the draft exemption controversy. Netanyahu has strongly condemned the demonstrators and demanded firm action from law enforcement authorities as tensions escalate over efforts to crack down on military draft evasion. Dozens of ultra-Orthodox protesters gathered outside the home of a Supreme Court justice, turning a long-running dispute over military conscription into a direct confrontation with Israel's judiciary. The judge had previously backed measures against ultra-Orthodox Jewish students who refused mandatory military service, including orders related to the enforcement of draft obligations. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu condemned the protest and called on police to take what he described as a hard line against those responsible for the unrest. The Israeli Prime Minister took to social media and said, "I strongly condemn the violent rioting against Judge Noam Sohlberg. Law enforcement authorities must exhaust the full severity of the law against the rioters." Justice Noam Sohlberg had previously called for stronger enforcement measures against Haredi draft evasion, arguing that the state needed to take meaningful steps to address military service violations. Following the protest outside their residence, Justice Sohlberg's wife, Mira Sohlberg, publicly spoke out about the incident, describing the unrest and damage in remarks reported by the Jerusalem Post. Wife of Supreme Court Justice Noam Sohlberg, Mira Sohlberg told to the reporters of the Jerusalem Post, and I quote, "It cannot be that Jews do this to one another. We are children of Holocaust survivors. Jews harming each other like this. How can it be? How can it be? Look at the destruction. A pogrom. What is this? A Kristallnacht. How is this possible? There are no words." The demonstrations were part of a broader wave of ultra-Orthodox opposition to military conscription, with protesters rallying against court-backed efforts to expand draft enforcement. According to reports, anti-draft activists also harassed police officers at their homes on 2 separate occasions over the past 2 weeks as tensions continued to escalate. Opponents of conscription further disrupted public life by blocking major highways in protest against attempts to enforce military service obligations. The unrest comes after the legal framework that had long allowed widespread Haredi draft exemptions expired in June 2023, leaving the issue unresolved. As the crisis deepened, pressure mounted on Israel's governing coalition to pass new legislation addressing military service requirements for the ultra-Orthodox community. In a key ruling, Justice Noam Sohlberg argued that meaningful criminal penalties should be considered as part of a broader effort to combat military draft evasion. Israeli authorities have increasingly moved to limit long-standing draft exemptions as the military faces growing manpower pressures and seeks to expand recruitment. The debate has intensified as Israel continues military operations on multiple fronts, with ongoing conflicts and security commitments adding to the demand for additional personnel. With Israel and Hezbollah continuing to trade blows across the border, U.S. President Donald Trump is reportedly fuming behind the scenes. Donald Trump and his ally Benjamin Netanyahu reportedly held a heated conversation on June 1st as tensions escalated. The call allegedly deteriorated to the point where Trump called Netanyahu crazy, according to an Axios report. The expletive-filled outburst reportedly reflected Trump's growing frustration with Israel's actions in the region. Iran had allegedly threatened to walk away from negotiations with Washington, citing Israel's strikes in Lebanon. Trump also reportedly accused Netanyahu of showing ingratitude and demanded an immediate halt to Israeli airstrikes. The U.S. president allegedly warned Netanyahu that threats to bomb Beirut could leave Israel increasingly isolated worldwide. Trump reportedly reminded the Israeli premier that he had stood by him during his corruption trial troubles. Trump said, and I quote, "What are you doing? You're crazy. You'd be in prison if it weren't for me. I'm saving you. Everybody hates you now. Everybody hates Israel because of this." Trump also allegedly argued that Israel was responding to Hezbollah attacks in a disproportionate manner. The U.S. president's reported rant comes as Israel expands military operations deeper into southern Lebanon. The Trump administration is also said to be concerned about the rising civilian death toll in Lebanon, Axios reported. A U.S. official told Axios that Trump effectively steamrolled Netanyahu during the June 1 conversation. Following Trump's rebuke, Israel reportedly pledged to stop striking Hezbollah-linked targets inside Beirut. However, after the phone call, Netanyahu posted on X that Israel's position remains the same. Tension stayed elevated along the Israel-Lebanon frontier as Netanyahu reportedly ordered additional military strikes.
Together with the Minister of Defense, I instructed the IDF to attack terror targets in Beirut. There will be no situation where Hezbollah attacks our cities and citizens, and its terror headquarters in Beirut, in the Dahia suburb, remain out of bounds. We continue to deepen our activity on the ground in southern Lebanon, eliminating Hezbollah strongholds. Hezbollah is on the run. We are determined to restore security to the residents of the north, just as we did to the residents of the south.
Israel's policy in Lebanon is clear. The IDF maneuvered and established territory up to the Nonnet Line, the Yellow Line, to distance daily raids and direct fire on Israeli settlements, based on the fundamental principle that residents do not leave the north. Subsequently, IDF forces maneuvered and expanded the area up to the Beaufort Fortress, which became a dominant position and part of the security zone, whose total area is about 600 square kilometers. For comparison, the entire area of Gaza is 365 square kilometers. The role of the security zone is to protect Israeli settlements and IDF forces. There are no residents in this area. It is only populated by IDF, and it operates to thwart terrorists, weapons, and the terror infrastructures below and above ground, including security in all Lebanese contact villages that served as terror outposts for all intents and purposes, and their destruction as part of Operation Silvernet will be completed soon. The IDF is conducting aerial attacks on Hezbollah's launch targets from the south and north of the Litani, working to thwart targets, Hezbollah targets, and any threat throughout Lebanon, and is considering additional maneuvers as needed. Following the U.S. request, the IDF refrained until yesterday from intense attacks in Beirut, except for targeted eliminations, due to U.S. contacts for an agreement with Iran. Yesterday, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and I led a move together with the IDF, aimed at creating an equation that says that the law of Dahir in Beirut is like the law of the northern settlements in Israel. And if Israeli settlements continue to be attacked, we will attack most of the Shiite Dahir in Beirut, which is Hezbollah's stronghold. There will no longer be a situation of quiet in Beirut and attacked Israeli settlements. In this arena, the Prime Minister and I published several announcements that conveyed the principle and its conditions. And the IDF spokesperson also published an evacuation notice to the residents of Dahir ahead of an attack with a continuation of fire on Israeli settlements. The immediate result was the evacuation of hundreds of thousands of residents from most of Dahir, 600,000 by yesterday evening. It may still be ongoing. 600,000 out of 950,000 Dahir residents were evacuated by yesterday, creating heavy pressure on Hezbollah and the Lebanese government. This principle was also clarified to the American administration before the move was executed, that we will not tolerate fire on Israeli settlements and will act accordingly, and so it was also in Prime Minister Netanyahu's call yesterday with the U.S. President. The United States endorsed this principle, which is a change from what was, and announced it to the Lebanese government and all relevant parties. The Israeli settlements, against Beirut. There will be no quiet here. There will be no quiet there. Within Lebanon, there is no ceasefire, and the IDF continues operations against Hezbollah, with the ultimate goal, long-term, of dismantling Hezbollah of its weapons, and the immediate goal, related to the purpose of the operation in Lebanon, is the disarmament of the entire Litani area beyond the Yellow Line currently controlled by the IDF and up to the Litani Line. Disarmament from Hezbollah militants' weapons with Israeli security control. This is the goal, and we are working to advance it with all the means I mentioned here. The test for the defense policy for the settlements will be simple and will become clear in the coming days. If the fire on the settlements stops or if there is fire on the settlements and we attack in Dahir in Beirut, this equation will be realized. There will be no situation for us of fire on our settlements without responding forcefully against most of Dahir in Beirut while evacuating its residents, as we have done in the past. Those who bring all these great achievements are the IDF commanders and their heroic soldiers in regular and reserve duty, who fight bravely with great commitment for the security of the northern residents. And of course, the northern residents who show courage and resilience in difficult circumstances to allow the IDF to complete its missions for their defense. The IDF protects the northern residents and pays a heavy price. Soldiers are killed and injured during their missions, and the pain is great. I embrace the bereaved families and wish a speedy recovery to the wounded. We are challenged by the fiber drones that are below the technological thwarting threshold and exact a heavy price. And we operate at all levels, both strategically and tactically, and some of you, I assume, are also involved in this issue. With all means to provide solutions and responses to this issue, Israel is determined not to return to the situation before October 7th as part of the new security policy. The IDF is present and interposes between jihadist enemies and the borders and settlements in Lebanon, Syria, Gaza, and wherever it is needed, and operates proactively to remove threats in Iran, Yemen, and everywhere.